We have now come to the point in the holiday of Sukkot known as Simchat Torah, rejoicing in the Torah. It is a time to show joy with dancing with the Torah scrolls held high, and praising Hashem for His gift of the Torah, His instructions and teachings to us on how to live a goodly and righteous lives before Him and the world, in order to be a light to the nations and be equipped to repair the world. It is also the time of year in which we read the final 2 chapters of Devarim, Deuteronomy, in the Torah called Parshat Vezos HaBerakhah. These are chapters both sad and joyous because within them Moshe gives out his final blessings to each of the tribes of Israel as they will begin their journey with Joshua in the lead into the land, promised to them going all the way back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is sad because immediately after giving those blessings and laying his hands on the head of Joshua to transfer the authority of leadership over to him, Moshe ascends Mount Nebo, where with the kiss of Hashem dies and is secretly buried by Adonai. Besides the death of Moshe, what the most important part of this Sidra is the contrast between the final blessing of the patriarch Jacob on his deathbed to his 12 sons that would, by the time of Moshe, become 12 vast tribes, and under the banner of Torah are now a nation called Israel, and that of Moshe's blessings to these tribes. One gives a blessing at the beginning of this exciting journey while in the diaspora in Egypt, and the other takes place as the individual 12 sons are now a mighty 12-tribe nation, entering into that very land promised to Jacob and his sons. The contrast between the 2 sets of blessings is quite extraordinary. Jacob, in Genesis chapter 49, gives his prophetic pronouncements about character, destiny, rewards, and punishments, often sharp, judicial, even punitive language. It reads as tribal portraits and fate, including curses and warnings. Moshe, on the other hand, in Deuteronomy chapter 33, uses almost entirely blessing language, more from a covenantal, national perspective, invoking Hashem's power, protection, prosperity, and land promises, a priestly liturgical tone that frames each tribe within Israel's national future. The scope and theological emphasis of each is also an interesting contrast. Jacob seems to concentrate on the individual tribal characteristics and moral consequences. For example, is phrases such as a wolf, a lion, cursed be their anger, prophetic fulfillment of earlier events and family dynamics. His focus is more descriptive and prophetic, while Moshe's blessing is less individualized and more God-centered, with phrases like Adonai came from Sinai, Horeb, and he attributes the blessings to Hashem's presence, His Torah, and national merit, emphasizing land, military victory, fertility, and the Levitical priestly role. The content of the blessings of both also shows some differences in its form and imagery. Jacob shows vivid animal metaphor images, a lion for Judah, serpent for Dan, donkey for Issachar, etc., and also includes negative verdicts, for example, Reuben's loss of primacy. Moshe also uses metaphors in his blessing to the tribes, but his are of mountains, dew, fire, weapons, and theophany, Hashem on Sinai Horeb. Many of his blessings use agricultural and military motifs, such as Joseph's fruitfulness, Dan's justice, in some rabbinic readings. The order and omissions, as well as the emphasis of each, also provide clear contrast of where the 12 sons were in Jacob's time and how far the 12 tribes had changed by Moshe's time. Jacob follows his son's family order and explicitly addresses each son with 12 short or long pronouncements. Moshe uses a different order. Simeon, who was severely scolded in Jacob's blessing, is effectively missing in Moshe's blessing of the tribes, having been nearly totally absorbed into the neighboring tribes at this point in history, and Moshe's grouping emphasizes some tribes differently. As an example, Levi gets a unique priestly blessing. Joseph receives extended, prosperous language. Rabbinic sources note these differences and read theological reasons into them. Our sages of blessed memory read into these contrasting blessings a prophetic force versus covenantal reinforcement. In the Midrash Talmud on Jacob Midrashim, as an example, Bereshit Rabbah, Tanhuma, and others treat Jacob's words as prophecy that shapes later tribal fortunes. They often tie specific phrases to later historical outcomes and moral lessons. The Midrash Sifrei in Moshe Sifrei and later Midrashim present Moshe's blessing as invoking Hashem's manifested help, such as using phrases like Adonai came from Sinai Horeb as a final reinforcement of covenant promises rather than a set of judgments. Rabbinic commentaries read Moshe's words as communal and legal spiritual reinforcement. In chapter 33, we have a few concrete tribe comparisons. For Judah, Jacob calls him Judah is a lion's whelp, with emphasis on kingship, leadership, but with a measured warning. Rabbinic tradition links this to Davidic rule and later royal destiny for the Mashiach, that is, the Messiah. Moshe blesses Judah with strength and salvation imagery, giving it a more nationalist feel, meshing Judah's leadership with Hashem's protection. In Joseph's blessing from Jacob, a long and favorable fruitfulness blessing is bestowed, a double portion via his sons Ephraim and Manasseh. Jacob's language praises, but also judges in a complex dialogue. In Moshe's blessing, Joseph receives one of the most expansive blessings that includes richness, fertility, weapons, fruit of the land. Moshe frames Joseph as center of material blessing and victory. Our rabbis see Moshe's words as affirming Joseph's national role. Levi's blessing is the most interesting. Jacob's words about Levi and Simeon are harsh because of the Shechem episode. They're punitive and corrective. However, by this time in history, the tribe of Levi have more than proven themselves loyal to Hashem, his leader Moshe, and his Torah. In the Moshe blessings, Levi receives the unique priestly blessing of service and the function of Torah, turning the tribal memory into an institutional role of eternal priesthood and teaching. The Midrash treats Moshe's blessing as formalizing the Levitical office. Simeon, however, doesn't fare well in either blessing. From Jacob, he receives a negative verdict linked to Shechem, while with Moshe, the tribe of Simeon is conspicuously absent as an independent recipient. Rabbinic commentators debate why, with many concluding it is the result of absorption, loss of status, poetic economy. Rabbis down through the centuries have read theological historical reasons while not settling on any one precept. The last tribe I'll mention here is Dan. Jacob called Dan a serpent, meaning he was ambiguous, cunning, and protective. Moshe recasts the tribe of Dan's role as positively. In some readings, rendering the idea of justice or judging, and Moshe's blessing reframes Dan's tribal function. Rabbinic texts link Dan to judgeship in various ways. Our classical sages emphasize these two sets of blessings spaced apart by about 200+ years of history, which allows for change, either in growth or in decline. Both sets are prophetic and binding. The Midrash treats both as prophetic utterances that have real impact. Jacob's are often read as what will befall if, and Moshe's as final covenantal assurance. For more on this, see Midrash on Genesis 49, Sifrei, and Midrash on Deuteronomy 33. The rabbis also note the difference in genre. Jacob's blessings are individual character prophecy and sometimes judicial. Moshe's are national benediction invoking Hashem and his eternal covenant with Israel. Rashi and other medieval commentators reflect that difference in their openings on the two chapters. See Rashi on Deuteronomy 33, verse 2. In short, Jacob gives us a prophetic portrait based on individual tribal founder character that includes curses using his personal and paternal voice, while Moshe speaks more from a covenantal benediction, national fortune, God-centered, mostly positive, focusing on land, army, priesthood. So then what is our final takeaway from a theological and practical perspective? Looking at it from my medical background, I see this as Jacob's blessings are the diagnosis. He reads the spiritual, psychological contour and historical trajectory of each tribe based on the character of its founder and often carrying moral warnings. Moshe's blessings are the treatment plan and invoking of Hashem's power, promising national strength, priestly order, land division among the tribes, and prosperity. Our sages treat both as prophetic and complementary. Jacob's words explain why a tribe behaves and ends up a certain way. Moshe's words give the communal, covenantal framework that shapes Israel's future under Hashem and his Torah. Thank you for watching this video or reading the teaching. I'm Shmuel ben Shlomi of Shmu's Views, wishing you a joyous Simchat Torah full of the love of Hashem, the Torah, and our people. Until next time, be strong, and may we be strengthened. Shalom.